Hi, I'm Nathan, and you're listening to the Queer Conscious Podcast. If we're being completely honest, before we even understand the concept of loving somebody, we've probably developed many ways on how to protect ourselves. We've got rules, we've got exit strategies, we've got brick walls, each brick representing a time in our life where we've been hurt, betrayed, or let down by somebody we love. But do we still have room for intimacy? Some of us do. Many of us do, in fact. But if you've ever found yourself craving closeness while simultaneously self-sabotaging the crap out of yourself, this episode is for you. Today, I am joined by the brilliant Whitni Miller, sex educator, pleasure coach, and certified builder of emotional intimacy at BDE Moves. Together, we're talking about what it means to move from protection to connection, and why sometimes keeping those walls up doesn't really keep us safe. It keeps us stuck, lonely, and miserable. So in this conversation, you're going to learn how to build your emotional security bank, how to create structure without making it sound monotonous, and create deeper intimacy with yourself and your partner. So if you're ready to soften your guard and build something real, then I hope you let your walls down just enough to get the most out of this episode. Enjoy. Hi, Whitni. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Nathan.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to get in this with you.
Yes, me too. So just tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
My name is Whitni, but I run a social media account called BDE Moves. That stands for Big Dick Energy Moves. And basically the premises of that is that Big Dick Energy is direct, assuring, and confident. And that's what I try to instill in my clients. Yeah.
How did I not know that's what it stood for? I saw that. I was like, BDE. I'm like, I wonder what it could be.
Yes. Everybody asks me about that. They're like, are you spelling bed wrong on purpose? Does that mean body moves? And I was like, no, a friend of mine gave me that name in a compliment circle about 12 years ago. And I changed my Instagram handle on the spot.
That's amazing. I love it. Okay.
It was gifted to me. I took it. On those social media platforms, I do sex education, but I also take on queer couples and intimacy coaching and a few straight couples here and there, because they need help too.
Yeah. See, I tell people I'm hetero friendly just to like help, we got to educate the straights. So
yes, we're very helpful to them. We are doing it better. And there's a lot of research that backs it up.
No, really, for real. So awesome. Well, today we're talking a little bit about the protection and defensiveness that comes up within couples. And I know this very well personally, but also like within clients and stuff. And I've seen in sessions just the way that it plays out. And so I'm really excited to discuss this with you. But I want to ask you, how would you define protection or defensiveness in a relationship?
Oh. How would I define it? That's a really good question. Defensiveness is usually something that comes up as a trigger when one partner has been critical or showed contempt, like roll their eyes or say something with sarcasm, which is another form of protection. So it's usually when couples are protecting themselves against each other instead of connecting, which would be to put vulnerability foot forward instead of the defensive shield. And that's hard to do.
Yeah. It's a very common practice, I feel. Yeah, but like, how do you see this dynamic play out with couples?
I just see in clients where I see defensiveness coming up, I see them telling the other partner who they are instead of asking them about their thoughts. So they'll be like, you're so lazy, or, to the far end of that, like, you're stupid, and that's just defamating this person's character, usually because of an event. So it's not who that person is, it's something that they did. But instead, we're like telling them because of this incident, that changes who you are fundamentally.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. And so it's like the defensiveness almost comes out as criticisms at times, right? And so the criticizing that person and who they are, and it's like, what do you think a person's going to do in response to that?
They're going to protect themselves.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then in response to that defensiveness, then what do you see play out usually?
In response to defensiveness, sometimes I'll see stonewalling. So some person can just shut down. Like, okay, well, I'm just going to shut down because that protected me as a child. Most of the time what we do is we just revert back to what made us feel safe as a child, but that usually won't connect you as an adult because most of us have childhoods that we need therapy for. Um,
I
yeah,
love the way that you said that. We have
yeah.
childhoods we need therapy for. We do. We really
Most of
do.
us do. Either we were loved too much, and you got enmeshment and your boundaries weren't respected, like your mom just like comes into your room and doesn't even knock, or you weren't loved enough and there's like neglect there, things like that, all of
Yeah.
that. Hmm.
Yeah. So the stonewalling, I mean,
Hmm.
personally, if I get criticized, I'll bite back. I'm like, oh, hell no, you did
Oh,
not just,
yes. Yeah.
disrespect me.
And
Uh-uh.
yeah. And how
So,
sharp, like, how sharp is your tongue, when you bite back? Like,
oh yeah. No, so I gotta really like, tone down my inner Latino energy and just be like, no, it's okay. It's fine.
mm,
They didn't mean
oh,
that
yeah.
about you. So
Hmm. Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
so this go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're talking about the emotional regulation, the pause. So you're taking a pause.
Oh yeah. Well, I try. I try and be very zen during arguments and bring myself down to that state. And if I can't, I'm like, I cannot talk to you about this right now. This is not happening. We need to talk
Beautiful.
another time. I need to go on a walk to the gym, yoga, wherever. But yeah.
Yes. That's a
So
beautiful piece of it is understanding that you need a break because I'm not going to be nice to you, right?
no, yeah, no patience, no energy to do that. So,
Yeah.
like this idea of defensiveness, like it comes up so often, and I think Gottman Institute defines it as one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and getting into that protection state.
Hmm.
Like, why do you think that is so detrimental to relationships?
Because it goes back to that. It's communicating. When you're in the four horsemen, the communication is you're not safe. There's not safety here. Or I like to say security because safety means something different to different people based off of whether you've experienced that or not. So sometimes security can speak better. It's saying, like, there's a net here. I'll catch you if you fall. If you take an interpersonal risk with me, which is to share your feelings. So if I share my feelings with you instead of telling you what I think about you, then I'm giving you my soft underbelly. And so in that moment, in that interpersonal risk, I'm showing you a piece of me that you could hurt me with this. Whereas if I'm being defensive, there's not really something that you can hurt me with because I'm hiding behind the shield of telling you about yourself.
Okay, hold on. We got to pause right there. So, oh, the defensiveness is a protection mechanism to getting hurt in a deeper way from your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, I can't think of anyone who can hurt us more than the person who knows us, right?
Yes.
And so it makes sense why that comes up so much. And so when you do get defensive, you're not letting your partner see you, then how does that impact the relationship? How does that build or snowball, or what happens there?
So, well, now we're going to start to accumulate resentment
I don't like
because
that.
no, it's not fun. It becomes this other, it's like a wall, which each piece of resentment is a brick. And now I've built this wall. And now no matter how much we bring our bodies together, because some people will try to have that makeup sex, it's not really conflict resolution, the friction of your bodies, because no matter how much you bring them together, you're a million miles apart emotionally.
Damn it.
I
So
know, right?
makeup sex is not a replacement for being vulnerable and sharing who you are.
No, it is a form of vulnerability, but it's bypassing the emotional piece.
Yeah, I wish I knew that in my 20s.
Oh, so much I wish I had in my 20s.
But so, I mean, that makes perfect sense though. If you're continuing to like rob your partner of who you are, and you kind of
Mm.
get into that stonewalling or continue to put that wall up with defensiveness or criticism, it's like you're not there in that relationship anymore. And yeah, I could see how that resentment just continues to build up.
Sure. Well, we're kind of just staying in the wading pool. We're keeping it safe. Like, oh, I don't have to know how to swim to be in 2 feet of water. It's okay.
The waiting pool. Hold on, say more about this.
It's like what I notice is a defensiveness, contempt, stonewalling, and criticism, they pick up more as the relationship progresses because there's an accumulation of vulnerability. So once the vulnerability kicks up, as the relationship is going longer and longer, let's say we're into like the first 2 years is a nice happy period usually. once we cross over into about like that 3 years to like that first 3 to 10 year gap, that's when you really see if somebody is willing to open up emotionally or if it's just completely dysregulating them. Because now it's like, you have all this information about me. You know me. Are you going to use that against me? Or are you going to use that as a way to feel closer to me? And do I feel secure enough in that? Because sometimes we can see a lot of self-sabotage in relationships once they pass into that time period. Because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, for it to stay exciting, I have to keep peeling off these layers and I'm raw under here.
Oof. Okay. So it's like the more that you get to know someone, the longer you're in this relationship, it almost increases the stakes of just how much you can get hurt.
Absolutely. It's a long way to fall. It's like I'm climbing the staircase in a sky, in a skyscraper. And if I fall from here, oh, the impact is so much harder.
So what do we do about this, Whitney?
Oh my gosh. So one piece of it, Nathan, was like you pointing out the emotional regulation techniques, knowing when to
Uh,
take a break, knowing when to take a pause. It's part of communicating your boundaries. And I
yeah.
think some people can think that when you're in a committed relationship with somebody, you shouldn't have boundaries. Um, you need to still be communicating your boundaries because those being respected are letting you know where the security in the relationship is. It's kind of like the
Mm,
temperature for your security. Do you hear me when I speak my boundaries? And how do you interact with it? So let
yeah.
me know how vulnerable I can be with you. Because if you don't respect my boundaries, I just can't be more vulnerable with you. It feels like I'm pushing.
And so is there a process that you take people through to work through this? How do we make it bite size for people? Because,
Yeah.
I need steps. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So if I'm working with a client, one of the first things I'm going to look at is their emotional security bank. And that's basically their bids for connection and if they're being addressed. Now, a bid for connection could be sending you a TikTok. Oh, did you watch those TikToks I sent? How many of us do that as a love language? Like, it's funny. I want you to laugh about it with me. And that way we're in a shared common experience. And this also builds security with me. But I'm not saying that you have to watch every single TikTok because if you're anything like my wife, you send me like 5, 10 a day and like I'll try to get to them. But just acknowledging, hey, babe, I know that you sent me those TikToks. I didn't get time to watch them today, but let's watch them together when we're in bed tonight. Like that's still answering the bid.
Yeah. And it's as simple as it is, it's still a reminder, hey, I saw this, I laughed, I want to share this with you. And
Mm-hmm.
so there is an act of connection there that I don't think we really realize what's happening. So yeah,
Yes.
I mean, because I get mad when people don't see my videos or watch them. I'm like, hey,
Right?
I thought of you specifically, and I
I
sent
didn't.
this to you. It took a whole 0.3 seconds,
Yes.
but I want you to laugh with me, okay?
Absolutely. And like I said,
Yeah,
even if you didn't get a chance to watch it, just acknowledge that you saw the notification. Hey, I noticed you sent me those. I didn't have time to get to it today, but I want to watch them with you. That way you can see my response because that's what you wanted anyway.
yeah. And so
And
that those little things add to this security bank is what you're talking about.
all the time, they're happening all the time, all the interactions. Like if I sit down next to you and I go, and you just keep scrolling on your phone, you don't even notice that I'm there. Oh, an accumulation of those experiences. When I get in conflict with you, definitely not going to tell you how I feel. I'm going to tell you how I feel about you and all the, and show up super defensive because you've been ignoring me this whole time.
Yeah, and so I guess the less bids for connection, the less security you're going to have in your security bait.
That's right.
And then what happens if I'm kind of
So,
running low on security?
oh, if I'm running low on security, I'm probably going to avoid hard conversation. Or when I do get into a hard conversation with you, it's likely going to be a resentment implosion. Like the day that the straw broke the camel's back. You left the dishes in the sink, but I'm really not even pissed off about these dishes. But boy, how I'm going to let you know about the dishes, even though it has nothing to do with why I'm pissed.
Yeah, because there's so much underneath this conversation
Hmm.
already because
Yeah.
your security bank's empty. Whereas if you were having those bids of connection, you
Hmm.
wouldn't be as bothered by it.
No, I wouldn't
Or
be as
like,
bothered because I knew you care about me because you let me know all throughout every day.
uh, yeah, I mean, it sounds so simple.
It,
So
it
so you do
is.
a check on the security bank, and
Hmm.
then where do we go from there?
So I do check on the security bank by giving my clients the first week a 7-day connection bids for connection planner. So each day it gives them a different perspective of awareness of noticing if the bids are happening, because you're not going to catch all of them. There's no 100% bid for connection watch. Successful couples will meet with 83% of the bids. And so that keeps an emotional security bank at a level where conflict is easier to resolve, because I'm not taking the dishes in the sink as a complete dismissal of me. It's just like, then I can give the benefit of the doubt to you. Oh, they must have been tired, you know, instead of just flying into, oh, this is just one more way that they think that I'm their maid and that I should be doing this, because you're not paying in other parts of the relationship. So we'll go through that. Once that is intact, then I can go into healthy conflict resolution. Now they're open to ideas of meeting conflict in different ways, because they can see my partner actually does care about me. We just don't have tools for this, because how many healthy relationships have you witnessed in your life?
Healthy. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. I can think of a handful.
Okay.
Under,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe less than 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot that we see to mimic. So like going through the bids for connection and that being the first piece, it's easier to take people through the, the reality of the situation is like, hey, you probably had a childhood that didn't give you a healthy relationship to witness and therefore mimic. So now that you can see that your partner does actually care about you, there's security there. Let's look at these tools, because that keeps us from going in that shame spiral that we all love to take a ride through. That's an
Oh,
unnecessary
we love that
piece.
ride. Yeah.
We love that ride. It's not necessary at all. It
No,
actually slows us down.
but can you describe how it gets to that shame spiral?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that can come from, there's so many things, because there's imposter syndrome. There's being committed to perfectionism. There's black and white mentality thinking, where it's like, it has to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, I get one thing wrong, I'm tearing this whole thing to shit. And I'm like, I tell my clients, treat your mistakes like you're on the interstate and you missed the exit. You wouldn't notice that you missed the exit and drive 90 miles per hour in the wrong direction, cussing at yourself. I'm so stupid. I can't believe I did that. You just get off at the next exit and turn around. So treat your mistakes in your relationship the same way. Fuck, I missed the exit. Let me get off at this next one and turn around. So with healthy conflict resolution, I didn't have these tools. I'm so glad that I have them now. We don't have to stop and be like, I'm so stupid, I didn't have these tools.
It sounds so easy to just be like, well, stop beating yourself up. Just stop being mean to yourself.
Oh,
Stop going down into this. And
yeah.
it's hard, but that first step I think is so critical that you outlined is your security bank. Is once you have those bids for connection and you're feeling generally seen and appreciated by your partner, for the most part, it makes it a lot easier to kind of do that, that loop around and just be like, okay, it's just a mistake. We're going to reroute here.
Yes.
So I like that you approach that before you even get into this idea of conflict. And that conflict now sounds a lot easier to deal with.
I need a safety net if I'm going to learn how to fly on the trapeze. Oh,
That's good. But they don't have to be, right? Like, and I think this approach really, really helps to just make the conflict easier. And so what about when we get into conflict now? How do we still shift out of maybe defensive patterns or something that I'm still holding on to 10 years ago? How do I stop from bringing that in and really just lean into the connection of conflict?
So, gosh, one big rule of conflict is that we focus on the conflict at hand. We don't bring in past things. So that's called kitchen
I've got a
sinking.
scoreboard and I keep
Oh,
score and I tally everything that they've done wrong. And I want to make sure that they know
yes.
so that this is an even perfectly equal relationship. Is that not a good approach?
No, and that tells me that the
Okay.
person who's doing that feels like they don't have an impact. So you're already communicating to me that you feel like you don't have an impact, and I would be interested if that person yells when they get in conflict because they don't feel like they have an impact, so their voice is getting higher. They don't acknowledge that that's triggering defensiveness in their partner. Their partner will likely stonewall in that time and can't actively listen because they're in protection mode, which is reiterating that they don't have an impact because it's not happening.
So it defined impact. They don't feel like they have an impact, what, to the relationship?
To anything. Usually that's a person in their childhood that they weren't heard. So that's the pattern. It's like repeating in the adult relationships is like, I didn't have an impact as a child. So whether it was like neglect or something similar to that, it'll show up in adulthood and like, I'm going to scream, I'm going to yell, but they don't think that that's doing anything because it didn't do anything as a child either.
Wow. And so it's not good to bring that big bag of all the evidence and all the things from past arguments is going to serve the conflict at hand.
No. And that's again why I start with the bids for connection. So you can see you do have an impact on your partner.
Oh, oh my gosh.
It's just people
Chills.
want,
Yes.
yes, people want
Yes.
evidence, you know?
Yes, we do. And it's like, and we
Mhm.
have it, but like having a regular flow of that evidence does so
Mhm.
much for us. Wow, that's really powerful. And so,
Yeah.
okay, so staying at the conflict at hand,
So
what else? What else we
yeah,
got here?
you want to address the conflict that's at hand. If you have a partner who is really easily goes into stonewalling, you want to set a timer for the conflict. So maybe 20 or 30-minute timer. So there's a little predictability. It's like, when you're in it, it can be dysregulating to not know when it's going to end. So having like a 30-minute timer, we're going to talk about this situation for these 30 minutes. And then whether we've reached a resolution or not, we're going to take a break.
Mm, okay. So I feel like if people are new to this kind of communication, it can sound kind of weird. Like, because I've
Mm-hmm.
been in relationships before where I'm like, hey, I really want to talk about this subject around our connection routine. Like, can we schedule some time this weekend and just make a
Mm-hmm.
morning of it?
Yeah.
And I think that might have confused this partner, but like, oh, like that's interesting, an interesting way to go about it. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I think structure time, like for me, I could talk about anything any time of the day. Like I'm ready to go. But I
Yeah.
know for a lot of the partners that I tend to date, they need just a heads up. They need like some structure around that time to for it to feel less scary.
Yes.
Um, how do you get over the weirdness of it? That's my question.
Oh my goodness, awkward. So I always say to my clients, awkward is the first step to hot sex. So if it's awkward, baby, you're well on your way because that means that you're learning something new. It's like when you start riding a bicycle, it feels awkward as shit. You don't have the muscle memory for it, but before you know it, you're riding smoothly.
I love
So
that.
yes, there's
So
that.
hot sex. Okay, let's just be awkward about it. We're gonna structure our time together, and that's gonna
Mhm.
lead to hot sex. Okay,
It
I'm good
is
with that.
because it's prioritization. We prioritize all kinds of things that are important to us, like vacations, date nights. We don't mind putting any of that on the calendar, but you ask somebody to like block off time for sex or block off time for conflict, and it's like, now it's weird. Like
Yeah.
these things are supposed to happen spontaneously.
I mean, not in this economy. Like,
No, no. Gosh, life will get away from you. It'll be a conversation that you never pick up because it's uncomfortable. It's easy to resist it. Ugh, I don't
yeah.
want to get into that.
No, but that structure of like 30 minutes, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
handle it here. Create such a safe environment. Like, okay, I know we don't have to resolve anything. It's not about what we accomplish. We're just gonna be in this conflict, and that's it. And so there's an end in mind. I imagine I'd feel a lot safer going into that conversation.
Absolutely. Now it's in gradual bites, so you can customize it as you feel more secure in the experience.
All right, Whitney, you know your shit.
It's a lot of firsthand experience.
Yeah.
But like the key thing to remember is that 60, I think the number 67% of problems in relationships are unsolvable. So there's perpetual problems and there's solvable problems. So if you're stepping into conflict with the idea, I'm right and you're wrong, guess what? You already fucked up.
Yeah. Well, I'm just I'm like blown away at that statistic. 67% of
Hmm.
conflicts are unresolvable. I think I remember hearing that, but it's still like I'm like, wow, so what do you do with those 67% of problems that are unsolvable?
So these are usually, this is what is termed fundamental differences. This is like who you fundamentally are. You're not going to change those things and you shouldn't. That's self-abandonment. It's never worth it. Don't do that. I'll give you a clear example because this one is in my home frequently. My wife and I are fundamentally different on what punctuality is. And I like to be 10 to 15 minutes early. And she fucking hates that. She thinks that that's 10 to 15 minutes that she could have been doing whatever the hell she wanted to. She likes to be right on the dot or maybe even 5 minutes past, which makes me an anxious mess. Um,
Yeah. Well, first of all, your wife is right.
right, right. See, so, and yes, and opposites attract. So these things are going to keep coming up. So for
Yep.
us, our compromise in that is we use my punctuality for things like international travel, and we came to that one because we missed a flight to the Dominican Republic and decided, hey, you know what? Sometimes my punctuality is useful, so let's play to our strengths. And we use her punctuality for things like going to Christmas gatherings or birthdays or stuff like that.
Okay, but then you have conversations about this. It's
Oh,
like, hey, you've
yes.
got
So
you've
many.
got strengths here that can serve us in these environments, and I've got strengths here that can serve us in these environments, and you talk about it.
Yes, exactly. You need to
And
talk
so
about
that
each
probably
other's
happens in
strengths.
these 30 minutes of conflict windows that you have.
This happens in our weekly designated check-in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. So what else? What else around conflict? Is there anything around conflict? Are we connected yet?
I feel like we can't really talk about conflict without talking about attachment wounds because
Ugh.
people are going to react differently as you start to customize the conflict experience. Like for a lot of my clients, I'll have them go through a conflict resolution agreement. It's kind of like a contract as an actionable step because it's such an uncomfortable experience that people will avoid it as much as possible. But really, we need to just go straight in and be like, hey, what are your conflict triggers? Like, is it facial expressions? Is it tone? Is it inflection? Is it if I stand up, is that intimidating to you? Like my energy, if you're sitting down and I'm standing up, do you need physical contact with me while we have conflict? Would you rather hold my hand or me put my leg against yours? And, emotional regulation breaks. Those are going to upset the person who leans anxious because their abandonment wounds are going to go off and they're going to be like, you're never coming back. So we have to talk about the person who leans avoidant, who's like,
Um,
I'm overwhelmed with shame and I can't even hear you. Like they need a break. But in that
yeah.
break, they need the reminder to not try to come up with a defense rebuttal while they're gone,
Hmm.
but instead to do something physical with their body to get back in the present moment and then come back.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then when that person needs to take a break, the
Mm-hmm.
more anxious person also needs the reminder of like, hey, they need the
Mm-hmm.
space. It's
That's right.
okay. You can self-soothe.
Yes.
So,
There's a timer and it's going to go off and they have to come back. Because I'll hear a lot of times they'll be like, how long should the break be? And adrenaline only takes 20 minutes to metabolize. So when somebody's like, I need 2 days, that's a defense rebuttal that you're sitting with. You're like in the shower talking to your shampoo bottles about what you're going to say and another thing. And like we've all done that.
yes. Oh my God. Or I write it in my notes app and then and this and that. but
Yes.
but it's like nobody talks about this though. Nobody
Mhm.
like how much intention that you could put into this relationship. Like we
Mhm.
we don't give ourselves that opportunity. And relationships are, in my opinion, one of the most important things in this life. Like if you can't be in a relationship with people, like
Mhm.
what are you going to do? Just die
Oh, yeah,
alone and not connect to anyone? But these
absolutely.
conversations about conflict and do you like touch and how do you like to argue and what it's going to
Mhm.
set you off? Is it my tone or how do I say things? Like you're really learning how to have conflict in a better way
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that you have connection in a deeper
Yes.
way.
Children figure this out by having rough and tumble play. Like they'll be wrestling with each other, and that's how they figure out boundaries with other people. Like if the other kid goes, ow, and then they go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. I'll back off next time. As adults, we have to learn to do that verbally. Like, how do I need to talk to you? How do you want to talk to me? What feels like listening to you?
But so once you got all these things figured out in how to have conflict,
Mm-hmm.
are we there? Have we arrived at the place where we're
Mm.
generally connecting more than protecting? Or is there something else we need to keep doing to maintain this?
I mean, I want to say yes. And also want to mention that it's a fluctuating state. Like, you're on a ride with this person because they're not going to be the same person 10 years from now. So we're going to have to keep going back to these conversations. That's why I mentioned the designated weekly check-in with my wife. I'm acknowledging that every week that goes by, she's having experiences, she's changing and she's growing, and so am I. And so our needs and wants and what equates to satisfaction and connection may be fluctuating and changing. So you got to be ready.
And so just recognizing that you're going to deal with a different person every day.
Yeah.
And as much as that might make the person who needs that consistency a little bit nervous
Mm,
because your partner's changing, I think if you can accept that, then it's going to be a little less scary kind of
mm-hmm.
meeting a new person every day. But that's sort of the beauty of relationships. Like which part of you
Yes.
do I get to like see and discover today? And
It's exciting. I mean, I love all forms of relationship models, whether somebody wants to be monogamous or practice ethical non-monogamy, but like there's that rhetoric of, oh, it's monogamy that erodes relationships, but it's like Shan Boodram says, it's monotony. Monotony that'll fuck up any relationship format.
oh, that that's the tea. Okay. It's
Yes.
monotony, not monogamy. That's
Yes.
fucking up relationships.
Absolutely.
You heard it here, folks. Okay. So I've got a few more questions
Mm-hmm.
here because I know you had mentioned before that it's important that people come into this container with common knowledge. What is some of that common knowledge or education that would be supporting both parties in the relationship or multiple parties in the relationship to be on the same page?
Mm. So common knowledge that would support the health and longevity of the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ooh, I'm gonna say it's gonna be self-care, babe. And
Care.
yeah, and I don't mean the way you wash your face, but I mean the way you
Mm.
talk to yourself.
Ugh.
Like, what's that internal dialogue like? Is it
Yeah.
is it nasty? Are you mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
because it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter how much the other person loves you if you don't at least have like a I'm okay kind of way about yourself. I'm not saying you got to be like in love with you every day, like I'm a bad bitch and I love me so deep, but I'm a human and I am deserving. I'm
Ugh.
worthy of speaking my needs. If you can't do that, you won't be able to receive when they say I love you. You won't be able to receive when they say you're sexy as fuck. You'll push it
Ugh.
off. You push it off. Oh,
Ugh.
you're just saying that. Oh, it's just
Mm-hmm.
transactional. And that's exhausting to be in a relationship with.
Yeah.
You are quite literally a colander, and I am pouring into you, and you're just letting it slip out the other side.
So it's almost like the security bank that you need. The
Mm-hmm.
walls that line the security bank is your own confidence and self love. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have a solid container to fill up the security bank,
Yep.
it's going to just bleed through.
It's gone. And I'm exhausted because I'm working so hard to show you how much I love you.
Yeah, I see this one a lot with couples and partnerships,
Yeah.
and
So
one
common.
person is trying so hard to be like, I love you, I'm here for you, I'm doing this and that. And it's
Yeah.
like nothing is
Mm-hmm.
convincing you or able to support you in you receiving that love. So what do you tell that person who is having a hard time believing what their partner is doing and showing to them?
Mm-hmm. So sometimes it can be as simple as putting in a gratitude practice. So I'll have them for a few weeks every night when they get into bed, nice and cozy, sit face
Mhm.
to face with each other and express 2 to 3 things that they're grateful for about their partner each day. And at first you might roll your eyes or try to push it away, but like staying in the practice, it usually helps to soften it. I think about it as massaging scar tissue because if we have a
Ugh.
wound, it's going to be tight. So we
Yeah.
can massage it and like let it
Yeah.
soften in its time. We don't have to try
Yeah.
to poke.
Yes. So if I'm the one that is having trouble receiving those and my
Mm-hmm.
partner is to write those two things in the gratitude and I get to see those every day,
Mm-hmm.
that's really to help heal that scar tissue of not believing that.
Mm-hmm.
Is
And
that right?
then you're exchanging it. So it's that mutual exchange. It's seeing
Oh,
that
it's
like
both of you doing it to each
both of
other.
it.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, that's better. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. No, we can't. can't just pour one way, especially
Good.
to somebody who has a struggle receiving in the first place. There needs to be that giving because that gives them purpose. They feel all this purpose in giving. They'll just
Mm.
show up to the relationship ready to abandon everything, including self, in the honor of love. And it's showing them that like if you can't receive, then there's a big piece missing.
And then the abandoning of self. So actually, that's how I connected with you. Actually, a client of mine
Mm-hmm.
sent me one of the videos you posted on Instagram Reels, and
Mm-hmm.
it said something along the lines of, correct me here, but it's like, if I abandon myself in this relationship, then who the fuck is in this relationship? Is that the quote? Did I get
Exactly.
that right?
Yeah, yeah. If you self abandon, who the fuck is in this relationship?
Yeah.
And, a lot of people came to me like, dang, that was the tea today. But you think about it for a minute and you start to see that you've created a fantasy person that you think you need to be in order to be close to them. So when they say, I love you, you inside, you're like, I'm lying to you and you don't love me. You love this hologram that I've created. So you can't
Mm,
ever feel it because it's never at you. It's at this fantasy that you've created. But you created that situation.
yeah. Oh. And so if I'm someone who is living in this hologram and just trying to please my partner, hustle for my worth in this relationship, and it's just I'm not able to like truly feel good about myself, then outside of that gratitude practice, what are some things I could do on my own to
Mm-hmm.
really build that up?
Absolutely. Now I'm going to pull back from my yoga days where you do a mirror practice, and you sometimes it can be hard to look at yourself in the mirror if your internal self talk is nasty. So I would challenge you to find a body part that you like each day. I don't mind if it's your right eyebrow or you like your lips today, or you're feeling good about like this section of your neck. Like in anything, like will start to get you to accept yourself one piece at a time.
Mm,
And then we want to look at that internal self talk and see if we can make it neutral. So instead of saying like, I like my body, we're just saying, I have a body. It
mm,
takes oxygen in and pushes carbon dioxide out, and we're just neutral. And so
yeah,
neutrality can often be easier than positivity.
yeah. No, I love that. It actually reminds me of a Alan Watts quote, and I think it says something along the lines of, "If you're finding it hard to love, find that which is easy to love. Look at the blade of grass and let that expand from there, maybe to the trees, to the birds, to nature, and let that expand." And it's like you're doing
Mm-hmm.
something similar with the body. And so you look at your body and it's, what is it that I can love here? Or at least be
Yes.
neutral about and appreciate the functionality of it, and then let that expand throughout the body. And I think, yeah, if I can do that, I imagine I'd come into the relationship with a more solid container to actually receive what my partner has to offer.
It's less of that filter that you're using just to talk to yourself and more of the reality of what your partner's saying.
Yeah. Uh, so now, I mean, we talked a lot about breaking down these walls of defensiveness and leaning into this connection. Are there some examples of couples that you've worked with, or relationships that you've worked with, that you've seen this shift from protection to connection?
Yes. Yeah. The most clear transition is my touch averse clients. So I'll take a client in and there'll be one partner who is um typically what's happened is the partner who needs touch outside of sex has stopped initiating sex because the other partner is only interested in touch if it's going to become sex. So and then once I talk to them, this is just a pattern that I've noticed is that they um, they're touch adverse, usually because there's a certain trauma there. A lot of times it's sexual assault trauma. So what that does is it makes touch always equal sex. And because of that, they'll just see touch as a way to get into sex and they'll be confused by touch that doesn't go to that because it's just something that's been in the. So
So
I'll
they're
take.
not going to touch their partner because they're not trying to have sex. They just want the intimacy, but they're afraid that if they give any touch, then like, oh shit, the assumption's there. No.
Mhm. Even if the other partner, so like we'll say partner number two. So partner number two is wanting all kinds of touch, and they need all that other touch in order to want to have sex. So they stopped initiating sex. But the partner who's experienced SA trauma early in their life, they aren't open to touch that's not going to lead into sex because it's confusing to them. They're like, well, why are you touching me if you don't want it to be sex? And so they'll usually be touch averse. And what I see when I put in like a long hug, I'm like, okay, hey, we're going to use this long hug to transition out of work mode. So a lot of people have a
Mm,
hard time shifting out of work mode to I'm at home now. And it's time for me to connect and stop thinking about work. So I put the long hug as a transition. I'm like, I want you to hug heart to heart. So put your hearts against each other and hug until you feel your body decompress. And this usually takes about 20 seconds. So I don't tell them to time it because that's an external force. I want them to check in with their body and feel that release of oxytocin, feel their parasympathetic nervous kick in, and feel that touch can be comforting and grounding. It doesn't always have to be exciting or sexual. It can be a security blanket as well as, a vehicle to sex.
yeah. And
Um,
so you're sort of training them to have a different expectation around touch. Like this is we're no longer associating this with sex. We're associating this with oxytocin connection, a kind of clearing of the workday and stepping into connection time.
yes, there's
Right.
no obligation in this touch. You can just be in it. You can just savor it. And so about 5 or 6 weeks into this, I've seen my touch averse clients now verbally request for more non-sexual touch from their partner who wanted the non-sexual touch in the first place. And
Yes.
that's like the biggest boom. And I just want to high five them. And that's when I hate working virtual because I want to hug them.
Right. Can we touch too? Like big hugs? Yeah.
Yes. Like,
Uh, no, but like I don't think that like people realize the impact of SA in relationships when it comes to that touch and
yes.
how many assumptions and associations get rolled into just the
Mm-hmm.
simple act of touch itself. And so having like structured time around touch, I think that's really the theme of the day is this structure around conflict, structure around touch can
Mm-hmm.
support people who have gone through things like SA or just
Yes.
past experiences with touch that haven't been great. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah,
Oh my gosh, just being queer in itself is this othering, that we already know that we're not a part of that consensus, like that heteronormative consensus out there. And so when we get in relationships with each other, this structure adds those security blankets for us that are like, as we're figuring it out, because we're already mapping all this stuff out on our own. Gosh, I don't know how many late in life lesbians that I talk to who are trying to drop the programming of like staircase sex or the relationship escalator and all these things that are conformity. And I'm like, queer means to divert from the norm, babe. And I know that it's scary to be like, you're on your own and you can make this whatever you want, but like, you really can.
yeah. And I mean, it's hard to break yourself out of that, but I
It
mean, I
is.
think that's the beauty of queerness. It is so expansive. There's no right or wrong way. It's a
No.
spectrum for a reason.
Yes.
And in that, there's permission for you, right, to be
Yes.
yourself in the way that you express your sexuality and get your needs met. And that's what I love about it. But it's scary because it is so expansive, right?
Yes. Because now I have to trust myself. Like, oh gosh,
Yes.
like you're
Yes.
freaking me out. So I feel like the structure is kind of like prompts. If somebody asks you to write something on a blank sheet of paper, for some people that can be like really overwhelming. And for me, it causes like paralysis. But if you give me like half of a sentence, you have to start once upon a time in a dark and stormy night. Like that's easier for me.
Right.
Oh,
There we go.
like, yeah.
Yes, these prompts and structures like to bring you into that and to build that trust in yourself and your
Mhm.
ideas. So let me ask you, Whitney, establishing these routines like around touch or
Mhm.
conflict, in how do we not fall into the trap of it becoming this monotonous thing? Because I think that's what people kind of want to stray away from.
Absolutely. So if I've got, say, one routine I have is I always walk my wife to the door to kiss her before she goes to work. And the way that I keep that from being monotonous is I pause right before I kiss her to make sure I'm completely present in my body so that this kiss is not the same kiss that it was yesterday. Like many of us, we run up to our partner and we go, bye, babe.
Mhm.
That's going to get monotonous. It's very predictable.
Yeah.
But if I come in and I touch her face, I run my thumb along her jaw, and then I pull her in, and then I kind of smell her as we come in for our lips to touch, then all of those sensations are stirred up, and we're getting all of these neurotransmitters from each other, good oxytocin dose, a little dopamine, create some similar little motivation for later. And that's
Mm.
fuel. So that feels
Yeah.
different. So
Okay.
usually it's going to get monotonous because you're rushing.
So just because the structure is the same doesn't mean the content within the structure has to be the same over and over again. In fact, it should be
Exactly.
different.
It should
Yeah.
be. So if
Uh,
I'm having a weekly check-in, we're not going to sit down and talk about the same thing that we talked about last week. Even if I ask the same questions, like, hey, babe, what kind of sex are you craving lately? Like, sometimes she wants to be cherished, wants to be soft, and sometimes she wants it overpowering with a little kink in it. She's like, I'm missing bondage. Could you tie me up this weekend? Absolutely. And it's like, if we just would have started making out and having sex, I don't know what energy she's craving, or to share what kind of energy I'm craving, which keeps the conversation different. And conflict is the same. Hopefully, we're not coming back to the same conflict over and over and over again.
yeah. Well, if
Because that
67% of it is unresolved, we might.
it is, but
But
the
yeah.
resolution is that you understand each other and then you play to your strengths and your compromise.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so I'm someone who I'm a gift giver. And so I like just
Okay.
little tiny gifts, not like huge gifts, but
Mm-hmm.
even just showing up to like a relationship connection meeting or whatever we called
Mm-hmm.
it. We didn't have a name for it. It's just a time where we're supposed to talk about something. We
Mm-hmm.
come into these areas and where they might be expecting conflict, I'd come with like a little gift or like a little surprise just to share, look, I see the best in you. I know you're doing your best. I'm doing my best. I know we love each other, but we're going to deal with some uncomfortable shit. And I just want you to have this as a token
Yes,
of my love and gratitude. Right. But I think that
absolutely.
things like that really just help to like ease the tension
I
in
agree.
that. So
And having some aftercare after the conflict has been resolved. Like, high five, we did that. Let's go
yeah.
get ice cream now.
Yes.
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 That too. Right. Or have some great sex
Yeah,
afterwards,
absolutely.
right? Not in lieu
Yes.
of.
It's like,
Yeah.
absolutely. As long as you're not using it in place of resolution, then that makeup sex is great.
I mean, you've been doing this a while. You're quite the expert in this. Have you always been this way? Or
Yeah.
is this a journey that you've had to work through to get here?
This is 100% a journey that I've been, like many coaches, I'm bringing a collective of research, yes, but I'm bringing you a shit ton of my own mistakes, fuck ups, firsthand experiences. I am your classic anxiously attached person. Like, that's where I'm coming from. So where I am now at almost 40 is earned secure. And this comes with like years of workshops and immersion practices. I went into like a 2-year yoga immersion thing where it was just like completely immersed with this community where we cried on each other and looked at our shadows, and they had us do crazy shit like take different colored markers and make a family tree. And I was like, why are the colors different? And it's like, oh, you're going to include your family's wounds by color code. And I was like, oh my
I
God.
love
So
shit like this. I really do.
it just rips you apart, but you get to see that your patterns aren't who you are. They're your environment and how it affected you.
And why have you taken so much time and energy and tension to work through that? Because it sounds to someone listening who hasn't gone through things like that, sounds really
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, sounds really weird and out of the norm
Mm-hmm.
to go and do that to yourself. But why do you do it?
I do it because I love feeling connected to people. And I can't do that unless I'm willing to show you my connection points. And that's about letting that defensiveness down. And I have to be able to ground in myself and trust myself to be able to connect with anyone else.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Whitney, thank you so much. Is there anything, any final words of wisdom or advice you want to leave the audience with today around protection to connection?
Um, I guess like what's coming for now is practice that pause. Like, just take a breath. we can prevent so much.
That was nice. And I felt nice doing that. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you for having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Queer Conscious Podcast, where we explore how love feeds us, heals us, and gives us life. I'm your host and queer love coach, Nathan Serrato. But remember that the conversations that we're having here today are not a replacement for working with a licensed therapist, professional coach, or mental health practitioner. These conversations are for entertainment and education purposes only. But if you are dealing with some big challenges and you're thinking about seeking some professional support, it is one of the most empowering things that you can do for yourself. You can visit queerconscious.com for more information on how to do that. Now, if you love today's episodes and you want more episodes like this, I need your help. Please leave a 5-star rating and review. That's going to help me to bring you more high quality content and interviews. So until then, take care of yourself and don't forget to let love in.